Fiona Hill, Mr. Putin, Operative in the Kremlin. Delve into the enigmatic mind of Vladimir Putin with the riveting book, Mr. Putin, Operative in the Kremlin, by Fiona Hill. This summary helps you uncover the complexities of Putin's personality and explore how his distinct 6 identities, the statist, the history man, the survivalist, the outsider, the free marketeer, and the case officer, shape his governing style and policy agendas. Discover how these identities contribute to Putin's mission to restore Russia's global standing and how his approach to state governance is influenced by his KGB background. Gain valuable insights into the inner workings of this fascinating political figure and his impact on Russia's domestic and foreign policies.
Putin's multilayered worldview. Western policymakers must first understand Vladimir Putin's complex worldview, which stems from his personal experiences, Russia's history and culture, and organizational cultures. Putin's governing style and foreign policy agenda are guided by 6 overlapping identities: the statist, the history man, the survivalist, the outsider, the free marketeer, and the case officer. His governance includes creating a more authoritative centralized state apparatus and greater assertiveness in foreign policy. To formulate effective strategies against Putin, it's crucial to comprehend his multifaceted worldview and its origins. Putin's vision for Russian ideology. When Vladimir Putin took office as President of Russia in 2000, he faced an arduous task of restoring law and order. The state apparatus was in disarray, and the privatization of state assets had disastrous effects on the economy. Putin's concept was to create a breathing space, paradishka, for Russia to focus on its own affairs. His political mission statement, the Millennium Message, outlines a conservative philosophy he calls the Russian idea. This idea glorifies Russian values of stability, patriotism, solidarity, and collectivism. The state's central role is to ensure regulation and steer society, and this ideology justifies political and economic reform. Putin's vision for Russia is clear: by dint of fate and scale, Russia should be a great power that influences the world stage. Putin's use of Russian history. Putin's knowledge of Russian history and his manipulation of it for policymaking have helped him to establish Putinism, a system of governance where he is the neo-tsarist, authoritarian head of state. He draws parallels between present-day Russia and its proud, strong, and independent past to legitimize his leadership style. The Russian population has become survivalists, constantly preparing for the worst. Putin invokes the memory of former Russian autocrats who sought state unity and major reforms through non-revolutionary means. He views capitalism as personal connections with regulators rather than production, management, and marketing. By emphasizing imperial Russian history, he aims to resurrect a strong, centralized state with himself at the helm. Putin's survivalist mentality. Putin's political worldview has been profoundly influenced by his parents' survivalist mentality that was instilled during their experience in the Nazi siege of Leningrad. This worldview is reflected in his worst-case scenario thinking and policy planning, which he hopes will prepare Russia to withstand future economic crises. Furthermore, his intense focus on building up and protecting Russia's strategic resources reflects his upbringing and personal experiences during the war. Putin's political rise. In 1996, Putin arrived in Moscow as an outsider to the national political establishment. However, within a few years, he rapidly rose to the top of the Kremlin. Putin's political success is attributed to his carefully cultivated anti-establishment image that projects tough guy persona and personal connection with ordinary Russians. Putin's vision for Russia's market economy. Putin's hands-on experience with market economics during the 1990s enabled him to conclude that Russia must embrace a market economic system to survive. According to Putin, winners under the capitalist model were those best at exploiting other people's vulnerabilities. He took a pragmatic approach, focusing on what worked and what didn't without the burden of ideology. Putin advocates intelligent pragmatism, embracing fiscal discipline and macroeconomic policy to safeguard the Russian state. His goals of building and protecting the state do not center on promoting economic liberalism. Putin's strategic advantage. Putin's training as a KGB officer equipped him with the ability to work with people, including the targeting, recruitment, and deployment of agents and information as weapons. He has applied these skills to politics since his shift to the Kremlin in 1996, studying the psychology of opponents to exploit their vulnerabilities for his strategic advantage. Putin's worldview. Putin's leadership style is shaped by 6 elements that influence his governance approach and policy agenda. He views himself as the CEO of Russia Inc. and the small group of powerful elites as operational managers implementing his vision. With a KGB case officer's approach, he protects the oligarchs from the state and each other, gaining leverage over them. However, his hyper-personalized style limits his ability to delegate, and decision-making and power are centralized in him alone. Putin believes that Russia must be more aggressive and smarter than its opponents in fighting the new war. Putin's persona. Putin's multifaceted identity serves to defend and revive Russia's image as a great power. He utilizes his skills as a former intelligence operative in recruiting assets, crushing opponents, and manipulating information to stifle homeland dissent and score geopolitical wins abroad. Drawing on his background as a statist, Putin's nationalist sentiments shore up his political base and unite the country behind the idea of a resurgent Russia. Putin deploys his historian persona to set a historical context for his geopolitical grievances and amplify them on the international stage. Putin and the creative class. During the Moscow protests of 2011 and 2012, Putin's dual personas, the case officer and the history man, were on full display. The protests were driven by the city's creative class, urban professionals who previously benefited from Putin's first decade in office but now wanted democratization. Putin deployed the case officer to infiltrate and crack down on dissident voices, while his history man persona propelled him to a re-election victory in 2012 by crafting a winning populist message of national unity. Putin believed the US and Europe were actively hostile, accusing them of paying protesters and attempting to influence civil society through Western NGOs and information networks. Putin's perception of the West. Putin's belief in the hostile nature of the West deepened throughout his presidency due to various aggressive actions such as NATO's expansion up to the Russian border, the color revolutions in Georgia and Ukraine, and the US invasion of Iraq. In response, Putin sought to defend Russia and develop capabilities to fight a new kind of war that utilized non-military methods. He relied on various state powers to counteract similar actions by the West, and believed that Russia's aggression in Ukraine was related to this new form of warfare. Putin's view of NATO's expansion as a direct provocation, along with the actions of the West, led him to conclude that the United States was hostile to Russia's interests. Putin's warfare against the West. Ukraine served as a testing ground for Putin's approach to modern warfare against perceived Western aggression. Putin believed that Ukraine's shift towards the EU and the protests leading to Yanukovych's ouster were direct results of Western interference on Russian sovereignty. Putin viewed Russians and Ukrainians as one united people on either side of an artificial border, and Crimea as historically, culturally, and linguistically Russian. Russia's annexation of Crimea was seen as a legitimate act of self-defense against Western meddling. Putin's Ukrainian operation was intended to send a message to the United States: if they encroach in Russia's neighborhood, Russia will react. Putin's approach shows that he appreciates useful history in policy, and his manipulation of the past serves as a policy tool. Russia operates as a corporate empire where the interests of the state are intertwined with wealthy oligarchs personally linked to Putin. Putin's business strategy. Putin's willingness to do business with the US and allies is dependent on mutual strategic interests. Until an understanding regarding respected, autonomous spheres of influence is reached, Putin will continue to view the West as a threat.
In Fiona Hill's Mr. Putin, Operative in the Kremlin, we have unraveled the intricate layers of Vladimir Putin's personality and his 6 core identities that guide his political objectives. Reveal how Putin's statist and survivalist personas focus on restoring Russia's position as a great power, while the history man uses Russia's past to legitimize his actions. Explore Putin's unique propensity as an outsider to connect with the masses and his experiences as a free marketeer that inform his pragmatic economic decisions. Finally, delving into his case officer identity, see how Putin deploys intelligence operative skills both domestically and internationally. This engaging summary leaves no stone unturned in presenting a comprehensive understanding of the enigmatic Mr. Putin and his vision for Russia's future.